everybody. Welcome to Market Moves. I'm Jason, the Wizard of Ops. With me, as always, is Jay, aka Dark Matter. Jay, how you doing?
I'm doing well, Wiz. How's your Father's Day?
Oh, it was good. We went rafting out in Shenandoah, so it was very nice. It was short, but we avoided the rain, and yeah, my kids loved it. It's real life versus screens, right?
Yeah. No, well that's good. Yeah, that rain did come. I mean, this rain just in general this year is just a special one. Like
Yeah,
even over the weekend, Saturday, we got a pretty good downpour. So
yeah.
I'm glad you didn't get rained in the Shenandoah.
How was your Father's Day? Was it good?
Yeah, it was pretty good. Like how I like it. Just calm, relaxing and,
Nice.
an amazing breakfast. So yeah, I loved it.
Excellent. I am going to preface this show by saying that I am producing the show as well as participating in it, and I am bound to make a mistake or two. So if you if something wacky happens, now you know why, because
Yeah.
the behind the scenes is busy today, so it is all me. But
The
that
the
being
the
said,
blue the blooper reels today were quite
yeah.
interesting. Just watching us two trying to get this started.
I mean, the go live button's so small. But anyway,
No.
all right, Jay, take it away. We'll start talking planning, but this is going to be an interesting week. So this is one to tune in.
Yeah, I guess let me just kind of set our backdrop here a little bit. So futures opened up overnight. We did have a major gap down. A lot of us in the Discord were looking for this sell-off on Friday. It just held. It held above water on Friday, and we eventually got it here on Sunday, right? So XPX basically headed to where we thought it would head to 54 or 59.45, 59.50 was where you had some infliction of Gamma, Vanna, and Charm. So that's exactly what ES did or SPX did overnight. And then we bounced and we bounced hard from that level, right? A little bit with the volatility and Iran and Israel kind of, dying down as well. You've got some back and forth potentially of a deal. They're trying to seek still Trump and team. So I think volatility's died down a little bit of that. We got that bounce there. Now, going into this week, you've kind of nailed it. Let's just talk a little bit about what brings us into this week and what are some of those catalysts. So today we do, just FYI, as of this week wasn't filled with all of these various catalysts. We do have a 20-year bond auction, just FYI. So just keep that on the docket for today. But the big things this week, Wiz, that I'd love to get your take on. We obviously have unemployment claims that will still be coming out Wednesday, but the big, event of them all was FOMC. Then we got Powell speaking after the decision, and then even Thursday we got the Bank of England with its interest rate decision. And Thursday, as you said, the markets are closed, right? Juneteenth. We will be celebrating here as a country, so the markets will be closed Thursday. And then we come back Friday, and while, yeah, you have all of these potential catalysts, the big one is OPEX. So, Wiz, what's your take on kind of this week's catalyst, volatility, and kind of where we're at and headed?
Yeah. So this week is unique, very unique, in that first of all, the Juneteenth holiday, which is a fairly new holiday, celebrating the final liberation of African American slaves in America. It is always on June 19th, and this time June 19th is on the third Thursday of the month, which is normally options expiration. Now, typically options expiration, it is like monthly options expiration, not quarterly, by the way. The monthly option expiration is settled on that Friday morning. Normally, that's okay. But because Thursday is a holiday, now Wednesday PM is the last time that you can trade those options. Okay. That means that normally that overnight between Thursday and Friday, could see some pinning or something like that in somewhat calm markets. But now you have a full day between Wednesday PM and Friday AM. You have a whole day and a half of market closure time that needs to be hedged. There's options that can't be traded, but they are not settled yet. So they have to, you have to bridge that gap. Normally, I would say not that big a deal if you're not expecting much volatility. But we have over here this Fed Chair Powell FOMC rate decision, the SEP, the press release, in a period where everybody's looking to the FOMC to discuss the economic conditions going forward. While they have expressed the last FOMC decision, they expressed a chance of stagflation, and that is terrible for markets. So if they double down or they emphasize the threats of high deficits or anything, if they do anything kind of bearish, we could see a very strong move and then an illiquid strong move in these closed holiday times. Dealers are going to have to still hedge. I mean, all these options exist and they're not settled, so they are still going to have to hedge. Right now, we're seeing a lot of puts being bought. Okay, I guess we'll look at it soon when we see when we see Volland on your screen and your trade plan. But right now, there's a lot of puts in for this week that are purchased. A lot of support down to 5,900. Yeah, see, like, what's that huge strike right there? 5,950.
Yep.
That's a huge put strike. So I think
and just
the
really
beginning
quickly,
of
just
this
to,
week.
it
What?
was, if you don't mind, I want to just kind of, for those who know, I'm massively into the weekly Vanna charts right here. This is over $2 billion worth of Vanna that sits at this strike, right? And so to make any kind of like ripple effect on here, something massively had to change, right? A catalyst had to throw us off. Something had to change. So if you are bearish, you are looking for this level to break, you are not going to find it sitting here with over $2 billion in notional with no catalyst. Sorry, Wiz, I just wanted to kind of highlight
You're
that
right.
because
Mm-hmm.
this is not a normal on a weekly to have this much notional fan on one strike.
Right. And not only that, but you're looking for that to break, but it could, if it breaks prior to or even after Wednesday, if it breaks from FOMC and you have that Wednesday PM to Friday AM time frame in which, implied volatility is going to zero, right? It's not going to be at zero on Wednesday PM. It will be zero at Friday AM. Implied volatility goes down to zero. You want to see, if you're a bear, you want to see below 5,950 at the close of Wednesday. That's what you want to see. But that being said, even if you don't get that, what the kind of like adage is, FOMC reaction the next day gives you FOMC real reaction, right? Well, the next day is a holiday. So, any kind of foreign markets could be trading and not like what the FOMC says and take you below 5,950. And then what, right? So I think that that time frame between Wednesday and Friday has the potential to be very volatile, both up and down. I mean, I can't even give it a direction. It may be, at least not right now because it's all fundamental. It's, you could talk to any number of more fundamental analysts. You could do our favorite is Samantha, our Leduc Trading. She has a lot of good fundamental people on there, and she can simplify markets in a fundamental way very quickly. So yeah, I mean, that is kind of like, it's not what we specialize in. What we're looking at is people are kind of scared for this week and they are hedging. So we need to see hedging. We need to see the market get below 5,950. One thing I will say, though, is we did have a vol event on Friday. Technically, we had a vol event on Friday, which means we should, within the next 3 weeks, see 60-40 again. I think if we do see it, it'll be, today or tomorrow. Kind of has to be.
Well, I was just going to
Yeah,
say, I think we're going to meet some over VIX conditions, but continue. I wanted to fixate on that. So you got a good segue if you want to go
yeah,
more
go
into
ahead.
that,
Go ahead.
please.
Sorry.
No, no, I was just going to say, like, futures action here. If we, again, held 59.45, we hit 6,000, we kind of chopped around for a little bit at that level, which was another inflection point. Overtook that, uh, bounced up. We came back and tested it just to show you the flip, right? Held that flip at 6,000. And now, we hit basically 60.25. So another 10 or 15 points here, Wiz. I wouldn't be shocked if we quickly grab that here at the market open. Go back to you.
Perfect. Good. Because I don't think this is something to trade long term. But it would be another victory for the over VIX signal.
Well, and I think the big thing here, even if we don't get fully those 10 points, this is what you're now running against to on the weekly here. You're going to need volatility to come down as you're hitting this level, right? So that's something to keep in mind.
What is that level?
That is 60.25.
Okay. Okay. Yeah,
And
I
you're
think
what,
once you get above
close to a
that, you can bump
billion.
up another. You can peak above, but I think, yeah, I mean, we can satisfy and then reverse in before the morning is up.
It could look like that. I mean, if you do have an
Yeah.
overshoot, I think it's going to be, I think when I was looking here, I'll jump over to it. Just above 60.35, you have some interesting things here at play, right? You have a lot of gamma. Let me go to gamma. We didn't look at that yet as well here. So let me pull that up. It's not massive yet, but I mean, it is. Like you look at 6,000, we got past that 60.25, but you start to hit some of these positive Vanna or positive gamma nodes, excuse me, here. You got 60.35, 60.50 even. I can just only imagine these are going to grow as we get to those. So, for today and then at least before FOMC, it's going to be a tough one to break. Like, to get above the 60.35 level is what I'll call it. We've got about a 20-point zone there. I
Hmm.
just wouldn't, unless you're scalping, it's not going to favor any swing traders in that zone.
No, no, but it's actually I mean, I'm happy it gives a good opportunity to add, right?
That's what I was just going to say. You can definitely add if you've been trading earlier from higher up.
Yeah, yeah. Um,
uh, Let me go back into our trade plan
yeah,
here, but anything you want to add for the week here while I pull everything back
yeah. No,
up?
I mean, I'm not saying that we're going to sell off on that Wednesday to Friday. It's mostly a volatility potential because of the hedging that has to be done in that overnight time frame and in a liquid time frame, and those options can't be traded. So you can't like reprice those options that can't be traded. So you may even get like a little vol pop between now and Wednesday. A little bit of maybe even if markets go up, you may even get a little bit of expanded implied volatility for that time frame, because I think there's going to be more edge demanded for that for holding through that time.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah, as far as like from an economic standpoint, from a macroeconomic standpoint, I can't imagine that Jerome Powell is going to say anything good. I think possibly that 20-year bond auction could, it's funny because these bond auctions, they're never positive catalysts. They're either neutral or negative. So, so I mean, I you would hope, that they would. It could be a nothing, but a nothing is a good, right? So,
Well,
and
I mean,
then
here I kind of just pause here really quickly because
yeah,
like it's been spinning in my head a little bit. Like, what is the surprise that you can get out of Wednesday, right? And it's like, well, if he cuts, the surprise would be cuts rates, right? Do we agree there that the surprise is he cuts rates, or do you see another surprise coming out of Wednesday?
you mean FOMC? I think the big
Yeah,
surprise would be the SEP.
yeah,
I
yeah,
think
yeah.
if everybody discounts or that would be my prediction is FOMC is not going to do anything like for rates, but they're not going to cut or raise. But I think that if the Fed, if the FOMC members in their in the SEP, which is their economic projections, if they predict that they are going to cut less, then that would be a big downside surprise. I also don't think, one thing that you've kind of alluded to, I don't know if it was off air or on air, but having a catalyst to cause this downturn, don't even necessarily need that. I mean, we are losing, you could go later on, we're losing like 7-8 billion in Vanna after June expiration. I mean, that's a big deal. I mean, that's so there's 5 billion in positive Vanna for this week, but next week, as soon as this week is over, like we start going into negative territory in aggregate Vanna, like heavy at negative territory. So I think that's when we could start to see, the support that dealers can give will be removed. And, there is a war, I think another surprise that can happen this week even is there's a missile launched at an American base between, the Iran and Israel kind of thing. Iran has been kind of hinting at the fact that they are going to drag the U.S. into it by hitting a regional base unless we do something, denounce Israel's attack or whatever. So if that happens, then now we're at war, right?
I think out of everything this week, I think that is like the wild card, right? Like what comes out of what we're not expecting in Israel and Iran, right?
There's that. And then, how is FOMC going to handle that? Because now they have to take that into account. So I think that, and when that happens, by the way, like during wars, bonds get bought up. So if bonds get bought up, then rates come down naturally. So I think that the FOMC might, how are they going to react? Are they going to say then inflation, may be more of a problem because of the once the defense, what is that? The defense industrial complex.
All of those kick in.
Yeah, they will probably. Honestly, what they're probably going to say is nothing, but their SEP may reflect a changing economic condition that I think would be a surprise as well. So overall, that's kind of my I don't want to say that's kind of my take on this week. But the fact that those monthly expirations got a day and a half instead of just a half day of limbo time is that could create some issues.
I like limbo time. That's a great way to put it. Well, let's look at some of those levels now. So again, as I said, as you enter into 60-30 here and into 60-60, this is where like you've got a lot of dealer infliction. You got some gammas we saw there. You even have like your Vanna, we saw the negative Vanna earlier as well, right? So like to me, if you're going 0 DT at these zones, like you got to be careful. Like if you get a vol spike of any, you're going to quickly find yourself back to 6,000, if not back to 59.75 in a jiffy. So that's kind of like my mean reversion play, I'll call it, until we get some clarity out of one of these catalysts here. But I think on the week, these two support levels, 59.45, and you can call it 25, but I'll just call it 20 to be on the safer side here, Wiz. Like that's your next big inflection zone. And I think if you lose that, while 5,900 is psychologically very important, it'll be important even, if we get any reaction out of FOMC. I think it's just a short stop on our way, then testing some 5,800 levels here. And I think the next big level there to test is going to be around this 5880, 5850 cluster. And, let me go ahead and pull up Volland here now just to visualize that. But your thoughts there?
Yeah, I think the other thing to note is JPM is the 5905 region, or 5905 strike. And that's that's a sold call. So I think that would be, if we do pass it, we would have to pass that convincingly. I think that 58.80 area may hold. Unless there's a huge catalyst, I think that 58.80 area can hold for until the end of the month.
Yeah.
I don't think it will be, if we do a downturn, unless, again, given catalyst driven downturn, I think that we need to see a strong over VIXing if we pass 59.50 to see any kind of bottom or bounce or something like that. And it would only be effective really for the next 3 days because of the whole Wednesday to Friday thing. We would have to see what the whole option plane looks like after Friday. So whatever you do as far as swing trading, especially if it's passing the Friday expiration, whatever you choose to do, I would be cautious and size down your bets. Definitely don't be short gamma. I think long gamma is probably, even though VIX is 20 right now, I think long gamma might be the right play here. And bi-directional if you're going to trade it, but again, stay small in your I would stay small in your sizing.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at here, I pulled up, this is July's OPEX.
Yeah.
I mean, you can see like tower, like a wall just forming here at 6,000, right? So any overshoot you get here, like you can clearly see what we mean is that it's overextending its welcome, in my opinion. I'll just again leave it at that. But go ahead.
But a funny thing is that is a put strike that was bought right before Israel struck. Like that, and it was huge. Like that was a huge order. And the whole even including me, the whole Discord was sitting there staring at it being like, did somebody know something? Like what? That was, we were at like in the 60-40 range, 60-35 range. And I was like, that is highly suspicious.
Yeah.
And it just like came in all of a sudden. We see this huge strike there, and I'm like, why are people buying 6,000 strike puts right now? And then air strike later, and return ballistic missiles later. You're like, and you can't. It's very hard too. You can't really like trade something like that. You don't know Yeah.
Well, that's what I was just gonna say is that like even last night, like we saw it in Friday. Hey, like 59.45 is coming, right? The toughest part of this game though is trying to determine the win, obviously, right? And we bounced at 75 on Friday. We held that level, right? Even went up back to 90 for a hot minute there. And then lo and behold, like, Crush City, you lose the 50 points and it happens overnight. So I think like that's one thing that I'm just like seeing here even more after Liberation Day has been, we're getting some pauses and figuring out some trade deals, but like a lot of these moves, it's dealers are making the moves and they're occurring overnight, right? And I think we've always had this theory that when dealers are hedging, right? And I'm just seeing more of it constantly, and it's lower volume, so it's not like you have a big player, a whale coming out and firing off new trades, but like I definitely do see the action, the fluidity of the market is a lot easier in overnight action than some of these regular trading sessions.
Yeah, well, London has a very strong market maker presence, so it's probably.
Do you want to just like I think everyone, for some of our you want to just talk a little bit about that? What does that mean for some of our newer viewers?
You mean what does it mean that London has a strong market making presence? So what?
Yep.
Yeah. So in London, there's obviously market makers all over the world. It is a very lucrative profession, and it's something that we it's what we track. It's why we track it, and a lot of the hedging that happens overseas. You can trade options overseas in off hours now, right? And what that means is that there's a lot of time in overseas markets, both in Asia and in Europe, mostly in Europe though, where they are hedging their books as well in London, in in Germany as well, and they're hedging their books, right? And but for us, that is coming off in an illiquid time in ES. A lot of times they end up doing their final hedging at the last second, which is around, when their markets close. It kind of rolls a little bit, but it ends around 12:30. I think London closes 12:30 Eastern time. And it starts at around like 10:30, but the lion's share happens between 11:30 and 12:30. So that's when Europe closes. And when they are satisfied with their hedging, then America hedges. So you could see reversals very frequently around that lunchtime period. And that's why. That's, because you see London people unhedging. The reason why there's not that many market makers in Asia is because Asia is never actually in regular trading hours, like for American equities. They start at 6 p.m. Eastern time and close like 8 hours later, I guess. Like, what is that, like 10 or something like that? Or what is it, like 3 a.m. to, whatever. So
yeah, it's pretty late our time.
Yeah, but regardless, it's not in the regular trading hours. So the liquidity isn't that good to be a American market maker. But in Europe, though, I mean, they have a lot there. So that's kind of like the impact of the overseas hedging, and that's also why if you look at overnight markets, you see at like 2 a.m., you see like some big reversal or some huge move or something like that. And that's why. That's when Europe opens. So I guess, is that answering your question? Or?
No, that you nailed it. That's
Okay.
exactly it. Because a lot of people are, they always ask me like, why are you? Because some of these days I just haven't even been trading the regular session, to be quite honest. Like from just a zero DTE perspective, Wiz, just because the move happens overnight, and I'm like, it's been satisfied, right? I got what I was expecting out of the trade plan. So I think, for me, I've definitely seen it a little bit better. The the targets, the level to levels, the expectations are a little bit more smoother these days overnight. And again, I don't know, just the zero DTE traffic is causing a mess during regular trading session, but yeah, the hedging is much better overnight. I'll leave it at that.
Yeah. Well, one thing I will say too for the overnight is like it is swiftly done in Europe, but we at Volland can't determine which dealers, like, we don't have like a Europe Volland and a America Volland. It's just like it's just like an overall all the options traded kind of look. So we can't segregate. And there's a lot of people that ask, can we figure out overnight moves using Volland? And you would have to make a personal assumption as to how much of this overnight move or whatever is something that is European versus American market makers. But, if we're being honest, the full, like, Citadel's in Europe as well. All the big banks, they're all in Europe as well. So you can almost say it doesn't matter, but, they'll hedge in Europe and in America whenever they can, whenever they see the liquidity. So, so yeah. All right. Do you want to go over your trade plan, or do you want? We already kind of did it, but we're getting.
Yeah, I think we already hit the big ones. Again, like your top range here on the week, just to kind of call out, is right where we're at here in futures trading. You got to be careful north of 60.25 essentially. Like, sorry, let me zoom in here. I mean, essentially above here, like you got to be careful. You're going to need a catalyst. I don't think today is the day. I'm not here to say that it can't go back up of it. I would be shocked that we find our way back above this with some of the volatility coming this week. But intraday today, be wary of any, breakouts here. I would consider fading it, and then 6,000 might be somewhere where we magnet towards. But on the week here, like I would be shocked if we don't revisit 59.50 is my thesis.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, for me, I think it's a if there is a major move it could happen. If there's a major move, like a major vol kind of move, we would need to be below 6,000 and then keep going in order for 6,000 to shrink. So it would have to be very, very strong in order for 6,000 not to have an impact. The thing is that is a put strike. It's not like an in the money call strike. It's not going to be a magnet necessarily, but it will have a gamma impact if there is a positive catalyst. If, Iran and Israel make peace in the next week, or something, then it becomes a gamma run, and you can, so it's that 6,000 strike is going to be a huge one to watch, and it's probably the primary one to watch over the next month after OPEX.
Yeah, agree.
All right, so let's talk. Give some questions here. Wiz and Dim, what do you make of the that's for you, man. What do you make of the high Vivix at the moment? Do you think we can also potentially get a spot up vol up dynamic as people chase upside if no negative catalysts come to light? So just for kind of our newer viewers or more green viewers, Vivix is the volatility of the VIX, which is seen as a proxy for skew. It does, it ranges typically in the 80s and can get all the way up to like 120. Sometimes at its super heights, it gets into the 140s, 150s. So that's kind of a skew indicator. I didn't know that Vivix is necessarily high. Is it high right now, or is it just like above 100? Or
I mean, it is. It's been, that's the one I've been like trying to
it's at
keep.
113.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like overly excessive, right? But I think, when you compare where it's going to and some of the levels, like it did crack a rather, if you're a chart guy, if you're technically looking at the VVIX, right? 110 was a pretty big pivot on it, right? So if it continues to hold above that, the expectation there is you go recharge around 125, 130 on the VVIX.
Yeah.
On the VVIX.
So a Vivix typically, like I said, it's kind of a skew indicator. So if I am looking at Vivix as my, skew method, what that would say is downside would be sufficiently hedged. However, we're seeing that it is not necessarily sufficiently hedged. So probably the reason why is because Vivix is high, and that means that dealers are demanding a lot more edge in order to trade those deep out of the money puts. So that would be what I would make of it. I think that I would go so far as to say, judging by the current geopolitical situation and the dynamics of the market, especially this week, Vivix isn't high at all. It's probably too low. I would want to see a lot of puts being bought to justify that pricing. That being said, if, one of the things that he said in his question right here is, if no negative catalysts come to light, again, the problem there is I don't see high Vanna. Vanna is going to be negative after this week. So once that happens, if there are no negative catalysts that come to light, I think the upside is going to be limited. But, if there is one negative catalyst, it can open a door to the downside. I would be, until I start seeing puts being bought and or calls being sold excessively, I am in sell the pop mode myself. But
yeah, it's like you got a magnet that's trying to pull you back up, but then the minute that like any of those catalysts pop off, right, that magnet has lost it. It's gone, right, and it just drops price, and the price will come fast and quick.
Yeah. All right, next question. How is VIX's Vanna calculated in the context of the VIX? So you're talking about, so the correct answer is we do not assume mean reversion in our formula. We just use the same formula. When I'm looking at VIX in Volland, I just look at the deltas myself, and just to get an idea of where people are positioned and where the imbalance is. I know you like to look at VIX quite a bit, Jay, what do you have?
Yeah, I mean,
How do you look at it?
same thing. I do like to just look at its Vanna curve, right? Just to see just how people are hedging volatility. But you're to the key points. I think delta is extremely important there. And for
Mhm.
those who are newbies to the trade plan, I do hope it's down here because I've made an update. I do share kind of just some key VIX levels, right? Like again, these are like key data points to me, right? I'm not volume profiling or anything, but these are just inflection points. And then here's how I use it, right? Like if the VIX, for example, gets above a 20.5, you probably don't want to be long in calls, especially in a zero DTE kind of call scenario, right?
Right.
Uh, and if we get below like the key kind of critical level to get below where we got some of this push was 2050. If you look at the VIX overnight, we did exactly that, right? If I just pull up the VIX overnight, I mean, we hit a high on Friday close to 21.5, right? Look at that. There's that inflection zone. Then we came and tested this in overnight, and we actually that's where we popped below that level, or the VIX, because it opens at 3 a.m. Just FYI, Eastern wise. So
Mhm.
VIX futures were already making their move down, but by the time the VIX actually opened up, we were well below this, and now we're testing this area here. But now, if again you look at it, like see here the VIX. If you ever want to look at your SPX analysis and your VIX comparison, this is what I like to do in Volland, right? Like we're hitting some key Van and Delta or Charm, or excuse me, Gamma levels here in XPX. We talked about it 60, 25, 60, 30, right, Wiz?
Mhm.
And then look at here, we're also hitting like a key inflection on some of the VIX
Oh
levels,
crap.
right? So that's where we have it, VIX. That's how I use it and how I get to these levels and how I trade it. So
Yeah.
you good, Wiz?
Yeah, no, my wife said the show ended, and I'm like, no, we're still live. I have the indicator that we're live still.
Yeah, no, you're definitely live. I see it on my YouTube here on the side. We're still
Oh,
streaming. No, but
all
again,
right.
this is how I use the two, right? Like you're about to
Yeah,
hit a support here essentially on the VIX. Do you want to be longing the SPX? Well, now we compare where we're at with the SPX. We're about to hit a bunch of gamma and van and that. So you see how to use the two and compare it.
yeah. Man, you see people freaking me out. I'm sitting here trying to produce and do this at the same time, and I'm getting freaked out. It doesn't
You
take much.
ignore them. I'll tell you if you're not streaming. How about that?
Okay. I mean, like the views are increasing. I'm like, so, but I have my cell phone attached to the thing, and it pops up. Anyway, all right. All right. I think that's it. I guess Jettins is asking about Europe. Oftentimes, no clear play, regular hours. I mean, I wouldn't say that. I mean,
Patience is what's needed in regular
right.
hours.
Yeah,
Patient with
yeah.
a
And I think
Y, PAYTIENCE. That's the kind of patience.
that's the dark matter catchphrase.
That's
Patience.
right. Patience.
All right. We got 5 minutes of trading time. So we're gonna go. I guess we're done for the day. For Jay, I am Jason, the Wizard of Ops, and may Volland help you in your future trading ventures.